My sister hid drugs in my room and called the police on me. My parents supported her as witnesses, fully aware that I was innocent. Just accept the blame, they told me. But then my attorney revealed something to them. My mother turned completely pale. My father was left speechless. It did not feel like the moment my world collapsed. There was no soundtrack, no sinking feeling in my gut, no sudden shiver running down my spine like people often describe when something terrible is about to occur. It was simply an ordinary Tuesday. One of those days that begins dull and remains dull until suddenly it does not. If I had known what awaited me, that by dinner time I would be handcuffed while my parents nodded quietly as I was arrested in my own hallway, I might have avoided wearing socks with holes in them. But I did not know. Not until the knock came. There were two officers. One was tall, the other stocky like a gym coach who forgot how to smile. Both wore uniforms, calm and professional. Emily Reynolds. My mouth went dry. Not because I had done something wrong, but because nobody expects police to appear on your doorstep as if you had summoned them. Yes, I said, partly responding, partly questioning. We received a report about illegal substances at this residence, the tall one explained as if reciting from a script. We would like to come inside. Behind them, the street looked exactly the same. The same mailbox, the same tree, the same neighbor's dog peeking through the fence. Yet everything seemed slightly off balance. Okay, I replied, stepping aside. I never even considered refusing, because I knew I was innocent. At that moment, I thought this was about my sister. I trailed behind them down the hallway, still bewildered, still trying to understand their words. Illegal substances. Had Jessica finally gone too far? Then I spotted my mother. She sat calmly in the living room, composed, holding a cup of tea as if she expected guests rather than law enforcement. "Oh, officers," she said, placing the cup down with a soft clink. "Emily's room is the third door on the left." I blinked in confusion. What? Why my room? No one responded. My father stood nearby. He showed no sign of surprise. He did not look at me at all. The officers moved directly toward my bedroom as though they already knew where to go. Jessica leaned on the railing at the top of the stairs. Her hair was tied back. She wore a hoodie, leggings, and held her phone. She said nothing, not even a blink. Ben, my old dog, raised his head when they entered, but did not bark, only wagged his tail slowly, as if unsure what was happening. The taller officer scanned the space while the other approached my dresser. Without hesitation, he pulled open the bottom drawer. There it was, a sealed Ziploc bag filled with pills. I burst out laughing, a short, stunned laugh. Because what else can you do when reality takes an unexpected turn? "Okay, that is not mine," I declared. Neither officer showed any reaction. They had probably heard that excuse many times before. I spun around quickly. My parents were standing silently in the hallway. My mother's hands were clasped together as if she were praying. My father still avoided meeting my gaze. I spoke louder. "Tell them. Now, you know this isn't mine." One of the officers turned to them and said, "You mentioned earlier that you saw her with this bag." My mother gave a soft nod. Too soft. "Yes, we didn't understand what it was, but she has been distant." Distant. We assumed it was just stress. My father added, "School, you know." Still, she's been isolating herself and behaving unpredictably. It felt like witnessing someone else's life crumble, though it was truly my own. My room, my drawer, my name. "You can't be serious," I exclaimed. "Jessica, she is the one who framed Emily." My mother interrupted quietly. "Don't make this worse than it already is." They put handcuffs on me in the hallway. Ben stood up uncertainly and whimpered. An officer told him to stay back. Jessica didn't move. She just stared. Her eyes followed me as I was led out the front door. No smile, no guilt, just a blank expression as if I were already gone. I did not cry at that moment. The cuffs were too tight. The atmosphere felt unnatural. My skin felt strange, as if I had left it behind there in the hallway, right beside the life I once believed I had. The back seat of the police car was cramped, the windows smeared. As we drove away, I watched the house shrink in the rearview mirror. It didn't look like a place of crime. It looked like home, which made everything even more painful. Jessica set me up with the drugs. My parents supported her, and I let them lead me away as if I were the shame of the family that they were finally free from. In our family, there was always a favored child, and it was never me. Jessica was born 3 years before I was, and in some magical, perhaps genetic way, she embodied everything they desired. She was bright, self-assured, photogenic, one of those children who never had a cluttered room or an unflattering photo. When she cried in public, people handed her candy. When I cried, I was told to stop causing a scene. I do not believe my parents intended to make me feel invisible, yet they did so repeatedly and consistently, with such subtlety that it took me years to understand I was not imagining it. When Jessica came home from art class with a crooked clay bowl, they cleared a space on the living room shelf just for it. When I spent 3 days painting something for the school fair, it ended up forgotten in a drawer alongside expired coupons. When Jessica had a piano recital, they rented extra chairs and prepared iced tea for the neighbors. When I was cast in a play, they did not show up, saying they thought it was merely a rehearsal. They were not mean, only selective with their attention, as if I only existed in the quiet moments between their pride and her achievements. I was like a background character, moving quietly and with good timing. I once believed that if I behaved flawlessly, earned good grades, kept my bed made, and stayed out of trouble, they would finally recognize me. But all that made me was easier to overlook. When Jessica turned 14, she begged for a dog. She created charts, wrote promises, and said heartfelt things that tugged at their emotions. Support animal and responsibility. My parents, of course, gave in. Then came Ben, a skinny, wide-eyed mixed breed that looked as if someone had tried to create a terrier from a forgotten nightmare. Jessica adored him for exactly 3 weeks. After that, she said he smelled bad, he was too noisy, and he scratched the floor. My parents nodded seriously and started contacting animal shelters. They even said, "I remember this one. If no one adopts him, we might have to put him down." As if he were a piece of equipment beyond its warranty. I was 11 years old. I promised to feed him, walk him, and train him. They doubted me, but also did not want to deal with the dog. So they finally agreed. All right, my mom said, but he is your responsibility." He was not just a responsibility. He was the first living being in that house who chose me instead of Jessica. He would curl up by my legs to sleep. He barked when people shouted. He followed me from room to room, wagging his tail as if I were his entire universe. Sure, maybe I grew a bit too attached. Maybe I spoke to him more than I did to people. But Ben listened, and sometimes that was all I needed. The only adult who truly saw me was my grandfather. He lived about 10 blocks away in a yellow house filled with the smell of toast and aged wood. Whenever things became tense at home, which was often, I would grab Ben's leash and say I was going for a walk. Then we would quietly sneak off to Grandpa's and pretend we belonged somewhere. He was nothing like my parents. He did not interrupt, nor did he try to fix things. I just made grilled cheese and nodded while I shared stories about school or books, or how Jessica had yelled at me for using her shampoo. Sometimes I would sit on his porch until the street lamps lit up the evening. Occasionally, I did not feel like leaving at all. He is in his 90s now, still sharp as ever. He still calls every Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning, still acting like I am the one deserving of concern. When Jessica left for college, the house grew quieter. Not calm, just empty. My parents started messaging her every hour as if she were a lost part of themselves. She returned a year later with no warning or explanation, simply saying college had been toxic. That was all she said. She kept her door locked often, took extended showers, had friends visit at strange times, including guys I did not recognize. One of them wore sunglasses inside the house. Another called me little sister with a wink that made me want to burn the whole place down. I detected the scent beneath her door, the slurred voices on the phone, the way she jumped at loud knocks. Still, I did not ask. In our family, asking was seen as overreacting. I thought I was imagining it. The way she stayed close to me more, lingered near my room, looked at me a moment longer than usual. But I convinced myself I was paranoid, projecting fears. Even if I had not been, nobody would have cared to listen. The following night, they placed me in a holding cell with walls of cinder block and a bench barely wide enough to sit on but not rest. Nobody explained anything. No schedule, no accusations, nothing. The cold atmosphere and harsh fluorescent lights hummed as if mocking me. I was not crying, nor was I thinking clearly. It felt as though my mind had been emptied and then filled with white noise. I imagined Ben lying by the window, ears alert every time a car passed. He refused to eat unless he saw me. That was just his nature, fiercely loyal. Yet I was not there for him. My thoughts drifted to my parents saying, "We cannot keep him now." Not given the situation. As if Ben was part of the evidence, as though he had been tainted too. I thought about Grandpa and wondered if he had received the call. Did his voice falter when they mentioned my name? Perhaps he still believed in my innocence. Maybe he did not. Either way, I pictured the silence that would have followed, the kind that lingers between people who have run out of words. Looking down, I noticed my wrists bore faint red marks from the cuffs. I had not spoken to a single soul since the officers had brought me in. No one asked if I was all right. I do not think anyone really cared, and honestly, I could not blame them. Perhaps I truly was invisible. Maybe that was why I was perfect to vanish. You grow up believing that being quiet and good will make them notice you. They did not notice. Instead, they became more skilled at pretending you were meaningless. They led me into the visitation room as though I were just a prop in a legal drama. Harsh fluorescent lights, walls made of concrete blocks, and a table that likely had witnessed more betrayals than honest admissions. A guard lingered near the back wall, pretending not to overhear. My parents were already seated when I entered. They appeared like people waiting patiently for a brunch appointment. Calm, composed, possibly a little irritated that things were delayed. My mother gave me a gentle smile. My father responded with that slow, deliberate nod he always used when he preferred to remain silent, but felt the need to acknowledge someone's presence. I took a seat. Silence hung for a while. Then my mother broke it. "Are they treating you well?" Her voice was polite, almost warm, as if inquiring whether the Airbnb provided fresh towels. "They gave me a sandwich," I replied. She smiled once more, as if that response settled something. My father shifted in his chair. "We sent some toiletries over. They will likely bring them to you shortly." I said nothing. Instead, I focused on how neither of them dared to meet my gaze. It was not guilt, not fear. It was control, like they were trying to manage a situation they still hoped to rescue. Finally, I spoke quietly and flatly. "You know it wasn't me." Neither parent reacted immediately. My mother inhaled deeply, as though readying herself for a rehearsed line. "Emily, we have to concentrate on what comes next. We cannot undo what has already happened." That was a way to avoid saying it outright. I muttered under my breath. My father leaned in. "No one is claiming it was deliberate." I turned toward him. "You mean the drugs Jessica placed in my drawer? That kind of unintentional?" My mother winced slightly. "Emily, This is not the moment for tales. Stories as if I had come in here spinning made-up nonsense. Are you truly going to allow this to happen? I asked. Are you just going to remain silent while they treat me this way? You are young, my father said. This will not haunt you forever. My mother agreed. It is wiser to keep everything under control. If we make this worse, Emily, it could backfire on all of us. There it was, the unspoken word. Family, not Jessica, not honesty, the collective, the impression of unity. I stayed quiet. I simply observed them dance around the topic as if it was invisible, as if the tension was not thick in the air. They watched me as if expecting me to finally do something helpful and then quietly disappear. Then I posed the only question that truly mattered to me. What do you intend to do with Ben? They exchanged glances. My father responded first. He is fine. Then after a moment, but he is old. You are not coming home anytime soon. My mother's voice softened too much, like she was bracing me for a blow I could not prevent. It is unfair to leave him confused. He does not comprehend what is going on. You will not put him down. I did not raise my voice or move, just stated it calmly. She looked at me with that gentle, dreadful pity I despised more than her anger. We will do what is best. I leaned back. I did not speak another word because why bother? They were not here to support me. They came to deliver the script and to tell me without saying it what was expected. They were already halfway through the second act when they stood up to leave. My mother hesitated briefly and spoke as if delivering a final statement. We have found someone to represent you, a lawyer. Her name is Emily. She is very competent. Competent in what? They did not wait for my response and simply walked away. The next morning, I met with the lawyer. Emily appeared determined and pressed for time. Perhaps my parents believed that made her affordable or inexperienced enough to not push back. She wore a blazer too large for her frame and carried a spiral notebook instead of a laptop. She did not smile when she sat down. Emily, she said, reading my name from a file. I have reviewed the report and consulted with your parents. I assume you have spoken with them. They are quite worried, she continued. They mentioned that this behavior is unusual for you, but also noted that you have been distant. Have you been feeling alone lately? I looked at her and blinked, because I had learned long ago to stay quiet. She raised her eyebrows, but did not press further. I want to review the evidence with you, she said. We need to discuss the item found in your dresser. I replied, I did not put it there. My sister did. There was a brief pause, just enough to sink in what I had said. You are saying your sister planted it? She asked. Yes. And my parents? They know and are helping her cover it up. Emily folded her hands. Do you have any proof of this? I opened my mouth, then closed it again. Suddenly, a memory flashed. The bear. The silly stuffed bear on my bookshelf hides a tiny camera inside its eye. It activates by motion and saves videos to a micro SD card. It was inexpensive, maybe around $30 online. No cloud backup or Wi-Fi connection. I bought it last year when Ben started having small seizures. I just wanted to watch over him when I wasn't at home. After school, I would remove the SD card and review the footage on my laptop. It wasn't advanced or very clear, but it got the job done. I never mentioned it to anyone. Not because I was keeping secrets, but because no one cared about Ben the way I did. And if they found out about the camera in my room, the teasing would never stop. The camera faced the dresser, giving a full view of the room. If Jessica entered while I was away, it might have captured her. My heart raced, but I kept my expression steady. If I told Emily now, and she informed my parents, the footage might disappear before anyone could check it. I had to secure it first. They allowed me one phone call, so I used it. My closest friend answered on the second ring. I said, I need a favor. She asked if I was all right. I replied, "No, there's a teddy bear on my shelf with a red bow. Inside it is a camera that records everything." I told her to go to my place, get Ben, and take the bear with her that day. "No questions. Just do it." There was a pause. Then she said, "Okay, I'm on it." I was serious and told her not to tell anyone or leave the bear behind. She promised she wouldn't. I ended the call and finally exhaled deeply for the first time in what seemed like forever. I had no idea what the video would reveal. I wasn't sure if the card was still functional, but it felt like a lifeline I could grasp. The only thread left in this entire nightmare that might still belong to me to use. They assumed I would collapse without a fight. They clearly underestimated who they had raised. I did not know whether the camera had been recording, or if the card had reached its limit, or if Jessica had somehow discovered it before me and deleted everything. Or maybe the bear just sat there staring blankly as it always did. Passive. Useless. Just another thing failing to safeguard me. I truly did not know. So I waited, hours slipping by into a full day. I gazed at the cold holding cell walls and imagined all the lives I could be living elsewhere. Ben at the shelter. Grandpa hearing only a fraction of the truth. My parents reshaping me into something they could accept. Then an officer called out my name and informed me that legal representation was ready. They escorted me to a small room made of concrete with a table and 2 chairs. Emily was already inside, flipping through papers as if she had been there long enough to grow bored. She looked up, put her pen down, and said, "We have something. You are going to want to see this." She didn't show me the video, only described its contents. Jessica, my room, the drawer, a sealed plastic bag, all with timestamps. "Clear," Emily said. "Intentional. Without any doubt." "Do they know about it?" "Not yet, but soon they will." She had arranged a meeting, a pre-trial conference officially, just to sort out the family matters. The narrative paused before any additional actions. It was highly professional and completely impartial. My parents accepted it. So did Jessica. They placed us in a small room within the courthouse, furnished with cheap laminate and poor lighting. Everything was beige, everyone speaking softly, as if the walls were tired of hearing people lie. Emily and I were already sitting when they arrived. My mother came first, wearing a pressed blouse with a tense jaw, as if she had spent the whole journey thinking of how to sound concerned. My father followed behind, his expression unreadable. Then Jessica entered, arms crossed, hoodie sleeves pulled over her hands, as though she hoped to shrink away from notice. They took seats opposite us. Emily opened her folder calmly, methodically, avoiding any small talk. She began by saying, "I want to show a brief video clip of evidence." She turned the laptop toward them and pressed play. On the video, Jessica entered my room as though she belonged there, showing no hesitation but only nervousness. She glanced around, paused at the doorway, then walked to the dresser. From her sleeve, she pulled out a plastic bag, opened the bottom drawer, and placed it inside. She did not touch anything else or appear guilty. Then she left. The timestamp showed it happened 1 day before the arrest. My mother's face turned pale, not as if she saw a ghost, but as if she had suddenly become one. Her mouth opened and closed silently. Her gaze flicked to Jessica, and then looked away. My father leaned forward slightly with elbows resting on his knees, staring at the laptop as though trying to understand what he was seeing. There was a chance the system might malfunction and show him a different version. Jessica remained motionless, rigid, witnessing herself betray me right before my eyes. She kept silent until the footage concluded. Then, as if something inside her had suddenly snapped, she blurted out, "It was meant to be insignificant." She was not even supposed to be detained. Leah faced the screen back toward herself and asked, "So, would you like to change your statements now?" The room was filled with an uneasy quiet. My mother was the first to break it, saying, "We were only trying to shield the family," her voice tight with emotion. "You do not understand." "No," I answered. "I do. I always have. And that is the issue." Jessica turned to glare at me. "You do not see it," she snapped. "You made this more complicated. You acted like a victim before anything even happened. I never intended it to escalate like this." When I asked, "So framing me was your backup plan?" her eyes gleamed fiercely. "You would never understand. You always believe you are above us." "I do not," I said. "I just believe I deserve more than this." My father finally spoke in a low voice. "This is not helping." But he did not specify whom it was hurting. He did not apologize or say much else. Leah calmly repacked the laptop into her bag. "I will be submitting this footage to the prosecutor this afternoon," she informed us. "We intend to ask for all charges against Emily to be dropped, and will also file a comprehensive report on the false statements that the family has previously provided." My mother gasped sharply as though she had been suddenly struck. I didn't want to admit it. Jessica seemed like she was about to speak, then stopped. I just sat there, calm and steady. For once, they had to endure the silence while I watched them unravel. No one said farewell. They simply stood up and walked away. Jessica left first, followed by my father. My mother paused at the doorway, then glanced back at me as if she meant to say something important, but she didn't. She just walked out. "They stared at me as if I was the one who had betrayed them," I told Emily while we packed. She looked at me quietly. "They are fully aware of what they did. That's the worst part." We didn't exchange any more words. They expected me to take the blame for the family. But as it turned out, I was the only one who knew when the ground gave way. Ben's tail thumped softly against the floor as he settled beneath my chair, resting his head gently on my foot. He was older now, slower than even a month ago, but he was safe, clean, fed, and still mine. I was at Grandpa's house, the yellow one with the uneven front steps, and the fridge that hummed too loudly. He handed me a glass of water and sat opposite me like we were about to discuss the weather. But he never asked how I was doing because he didn't need to. Instead, he said, "I told them you know that I was planning to leave everything to you." I blinked in surprise. "You what?" He just shrugged. "A couple of weeks before they had you arrested, I figured they would eventually find out. It might as well come from me. You're the only one in the family is supposed to be there when nothing else is left for you. I thought that was clear." I stared at him. "You never mentioned any of this to me." He said he didn't think it was necessary. Apparently I should have known. He leaned closer. 3 weeks after that, your mother calls me. She says you've been arrested for drug dealing and suggests I reconsider my will." Both of them did. "Your father as well claimed they were protecting the family reputation." I almost dropped the phone, my grip on the glass tightening. "Did you trust what they said?" He met my gaze directly. "No, but I didn't argue either." I immediately contacted a lawyer. He stood, opened a drawer, and handed me a thick manila folder. "I didn't change the will," he informed me. "I got rid of it completely. It's a trust now. Living, irrevocable, already signed and filed. You'll hear from the attorney next week." I was at a loss for words. "So it's already mine?" He smiled warmly. "It belongs to you. Nobody can touch it. They cannot alter this one." Under the table, Ben nudged my leg as if he understood, as though he had been waiting for this moment too. They tried to erase me to preserve their future. But it turns out I already had a future, one without them. The sentencing came 3 weeks later. Jessica pleaded guilty to 2 felonies: possession with intent to distribute and conspiracy to falsely report a crime. She accepted a deal of 3 years in state prison, with parole eligibility after 2 years minimum. She is currently serving time at a women's correctional facility upstate. During interrogation, she broke down. She confessed it wasn't her plan. She said it was about the inheritance caused a lot of turmoil. I told them my parents had hoped for leniency, expecting I would receive probation at most. She cried during the trial, but it made no difference. My parents were found guilty of obstructing justice, giving false information, and plotting to commit perjury. There were no plea bargains, and they each faced sentences of 18 months in county jail, followed by 2 years of supervised probation. They lost far more than just time: friends, reputation, and even their relationship. According to the lawyer, they have stopped speaking. It turns out that the truth itself did not destroy them, but the way they turned against one another was the final blow. The echo of those events still lingers in my mind. I often think about what might have unfolded if I had not remembered the bear or made that crucial call. What if I had remained silent as they expected? They nearly took everything from me: my identity, my future, and even the people dear to me. Nearly, but not quite. Grandpa never once asked me to forgive them. He did not offer some worn-out speech about family loyalty or blood being stronger than betrayal. Instead, he quietly poured me another cup of tea, sat beside me on the porch, and let the silence be comforting for once. Sometimes I wonder if they actually believed I would eventually thank them, as if years later I would visit their doorstep, older, humbled, and appreciative of the lesson. Maybe they imagined the suffering they caused was some kind of remedy I was unaware I needed. But I never signed up to be a patient. I was a daughter, a sister, someone made to take the blame. I recovered despite them, not because of any support they gave. People often ask if I ever intend to see them again. Honestly, the answer is, I honestly do not know. I no longer feel anger constantly. Not anymore. Some days, I can hardly recall Jessica's voice at all. Other days, it comes back vividly. What remains clear is the emotion I felt deep inside when I watched that video. That was the exact moment I stopped hoping someone would rescue me and understood I had to be my own savior. After the dust had settled, I moved into Grandpa's house. He insisted, and I accepted without hesitation. I repaired the spare bedroom, gave the hallway a fresh coat of paint, and cleared out the attic with Ben by my side, sniffing around every box as if searching for hidden gems. That house became truly mine in a way my childhood home never had been. I resumed my studies, starting with online courses and then attending community college part-time. I chose criminal justice, which is somewhat ironic. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I sought comprehension. I wanted to understand the systems that almost consumed me entirely. My goal was to assist those who lacked a protective figure with a camera or a friend to make that crucial call. About 6 months following the trial, I received an anonymous letter. It had no return address, but the handwriting was unmistakably Jessica's. I stared at the envelope for quite some time, neither opening nor destroying it. Instead, I placed it in a drawer containing other things I was not ready to confront. My parents never reached out. No letters, no calls. Their lawyer sent some official documents about probate, which I forwarded to my own lawyer. I felt no obligation to respond. There was nothing more to say. Yet Ben, he never required words. He continued to follow me from room to room, offering silent comfort. From room to room. He still barked at the microwave as if it owed him something, always curled up by my legs, like he understood I needed a connection to something good. Now he is older, moving slower. Sometimes he limps, sometimes he lies so motionless I hold my breath until I see his chest rise again. But he is here. He made it through. And so did I. Grandpa used to say, healing does not always mean forgiveness. Sometimes it means setting boundaries, embracing silence, choosing not to answer the phone even when you could. I used to believe surviving was about keeping the peace. Now I realize it means protecting myself. So if you are watching this, If your family has ever made you doubt your value, if you have ever been the one left behind, blamed or forgotten, know you are not alone. You do not have to vanish in order to find freedom. I am Emily. I am still here. And this time I am not going anywhere.